and welcome to another video. Great to see you here. Now my name is Ellie and I share art tips and tutorials to get you creating. So today we're going to be looking at how to use acrylic inks, and we're specifically going to be focusing on painting a landscape painting, which I've linked a link in the description box, so you can click on that to download the image so you can paint along with me. So today I'm going to take you through a bit of a step-by-step process about how you'd actually go about using these acrylic paints, and I'm going to be specifically just be using the primary colours, so we've got red, blue and yellow, as well as black and white. So begin by lightly sketching out your design, and here I'm using a ruler just for the access steps to the beach, and don't feel afraid to use a ruler where you need to, and I'm also using a really light pencil, so just an H grade pencil. The paper that I've got here is watercolour paper, a high quality. You could also use like acrylic paper, of course, or a paper suitable for gouache, so you don't need to be too fussy about having the specific type of paper. Just make sure that's of high quality and that it will absorb your paint. So next you want to apply your paints to your paint palette and mix your colours up. So here I'm using the Pyrrole red, and I apologise that the camera isn't focusing well, but I hope you can still see the colour that it is. And I also hope that you can see how fluid and how liquidy this medium really is. Quite different than standard acrylic paint. We've also got a cerulean blue hue, and these bottles do need a really good shake before applying the paint to your palette, so make sure that you shake them up heaps. You'll also notice in the actual bottles themselves that some of the paint pigment separates a little bit, so yeah, make sure you shake it a lot. I'm also using some cadmium yellow, a light hue, as well as turquoise deep. This isn't a primary colour, but I have limited colours because the art store sold out of all the other blue hues. So I'm using this one here, which will be very useful for my water. I've also got titanium white and carbon black. So next, use masking tape, if you would like, to create a nice and neat border around your artwork. And it also helps keep it flat and stop it from moving around on the desk. Yeah, so evenly use some to stick that down onto your desk. Then you want to outline the access steps with fine liner. So it's not something that you need to do, but it's very useful because this paint is generally opaque, so you can't see through it like watercolor. What will happen is that I will lose my ruled outline that I've drawn in pencil. So when we actually paint the steps, the ink will cover the harshness of the dark black line, so you don't need to worry that it looks quite harsh at the moment. So using this ink, mix up the colours as you need them. You'll find that the ink dries very, very fast, and you only need a small few droplets of each colour, and even less from your darker colours, as it's very overpowering when mixing colour. So to start with, I am mixing some colours for my sky, and here I'm using the Cerulean Deep Blue as my base colour. I've got some black for my darker shades and some white for my lighter tints and highlighted areas. Okay, so I'm beginning this painting with the sky. So using my base colour of the Cerulean Blue and mix with white for a lighter tint, and then applying a first layer to the top half of my sky. So gradually add white as you paint down your sky until you meet those darker clouds near the horizon line there. When you're using these inks, you'll notice that when blending them to create a lighter tint, that the paint needs to be very wet for you to be able to actually blend them together. So this may mean going back over the area again if it has dried quickly. And these, as I said before, these inks do dry extremely quickly, so you need to work quite fast when you're doing this. I'm sure also that you can actually buy a medium that will help slow the drying process down. However, I haven't got one myself and I haven't used one here, but that's another option to consider as well. Here, I'm also using white paint to paint in my brightest clouds. They tend to be a bit higher up towards the top of the sky, and I've added some of the pure pigment of the Cerulean blue to the very top of the sky for a gradual colour gradient going down. So next I'm painting in my darker clouds, and see here that I've added in some of the turquoise blue. So it's a really slight amount that I've added in when mixing my darker shades and applied to the areas of shadow. So I've also added a tiny amount of the Pyrrole red to mix a greyish purple and use that as a slight outline for some of the darker clouds. You can see that here. I'm working my way from the top down to the bottom, so now working on the sea, and this is actually a good way to work so you aren't putting your hand in your artwork. I hope that's something helpful for you to remember in the future. So I'm using the turquoise deep mixed with the cerulean blue and a dash of the Pyrrole red and black. Here the turquoise is my dominant colour. Again, I'm creating a tint gradient by adding white to my paint as I work my way down. So the colour I'm using in the midsection of the sea is similar to my sky, the cerulean blue and white, but I'm adding some turquoise as well. So notice I'm adding the grey purple to the shadow areas of the waves as well. Personally, I find the waves the trickiest part, as the water motion can be particularly challenging for me. Let me know whether you find this difficult as well. So the area of the wet sand, I've applied a sandy colour first by mixing a brown and over the top applying the grey purple as well as the turquoise mix in the water so you can still see the sand coming through. The opaque white here is my strength and it really helps me by using my brush strokes in the direction of the waves to get the appearance of the foam waves washing up onto the shore. Directional line is so important to your painting, and ensuring that your brush strokes follow the direction of the subject matter, especially those that imply motion, so like clouds, waves, or even grass blowing in the wind, etc. Now working on the grass, this has reminded me to discuss with you the variance of opacity with these paints. So you've got transparent, semi-transparent and opaque, and you can see this by just turning your bottle on the side and it's written on there for you. So if you mix the transparent paints with the opaque paints, your paint is going to be opaque. However, if you're using just transparent paint, then your paint's going to be transparent, so you'll be able to see through it. This means that it can be used similar to watercolor paint. Or you can use them similar to acrylics by mixing the opaques, or a mixture of both transparent and opaque. So the white is opaque, and as most of the colours in this painting are mixed with white, all the paint appears opaque on the paper and it has a matte finish. I've noticed that the transparent paints have a semi-gloss finish, and this is especially recognised in the dark areas of the grass. So to start off, for the base layer, I've mixed a fairly bright mid-green here using yellow, turquoise and white, and I'm applying it in the direction of like a short matted grass that you see in like windy areas of the beach. Then I'm using the dark brown mixed with a small amount of green to really get under the access steps in the beach, and these are my darkest areas of shadow. Next I'm painting over the top of my short matted grass using finer brush strokes and flicking the brush upwards like the direction of grass that's a little bit longer. The colour here is semi-transparent with a slight gloss because I've mixed yellow, turquoise and black, and all of these are transparent or semi-transparent colours. Over this, I'm applying the highlights and grass scrubs in the foreground. I'm using lighter browns, similar to the ones that I've used for my sand, and also some that are mixed with green, with small amounts of the green, and pure white for my lightest highlights. I've got these tree shrubs in the back here behind the access steps, and I'm using a semi-transparent colour of the grass mixed with brown, and I'm applying it by dabbing in short flat motions. You can tell these tree shrubs are a bit wind blown and even been shaped by the wind themselves. My last stage here is to work on the access steps. So this is the fiddliest part, and it took me the longest. It's because you need to use a very small brush throughout. In the tiniest areas where the very fine detail lays, I'm using a size 0 brush, so that might be really helpful for you to know when you complete this yourself. The colours that I'm using, I've mixed up a variety of browns. Now some of the browns have a little bit of grey included in them, and some of them I've actually included a little bit of the purplish colour as well as the turquoise blue that we see in the sea. And I've used this on the undercoat and painted over it so that it comes through slightly. Now you'll notice on the steps that are further away, I'm a bit less fussy with the way that I'm painting these steps, and the fact that I'm not really using a gradient tone as much because I don't need to be able to see as much detail because they are further away and not as obvious to the viewer. However, in the steps in the foreground, yeah, it's really important that you are using a gradient, so from dark to light, and having a good contrast between the light and the dark areas. So quite light areas using white, and darker areas using a really dark brown. Now we've finished the artwork, this video has come to an end. Please, if you like this video, give me a big thumbs up and press the like button. Subscribe for more content like this, and make sure that you've got your notification bell on so you're notified when a new video comes in. Until next time, I look forward to seeing you again soon. Please take care. Goodbye.